Namaskar. Welcome to Prakash on Basics. I am Prakash Zog. We were talking of Jainism, trying to understand Jainism. But before we go into the details of Jainism, let us understand and know about the two major sects in Jainism. The Jains are divided mainly into two sects, the Digambars and the Shwetambars. In addition, there are other subsects also, but I'll come to them at the end. The word Digambar is from Dig, which means directions, like Dikpal, and Ambar is covering. The ones who use directions or sky as their covering, that is, those ascetics who wear no clothes, are known as Digambars, and their followers are also referred to as Digambars. Obviously, not all Digambars are without clothes. Only the staunchest of the male ascetics are bare. Shwet means white. So, those who wear white clothes are shwetambars. The male as well as the female full-time committed ascetics wear only white clothes. The rest of the society members of the Jains are with normal clothing. The laymen from both sects have no restrictions on clothing. Even prior to Mahaveer, there were two major sects, the Stavirakalpa with clothes and Jinakalpa limited or with restricted clothes. It also probably implies those with stable family life, because that's what Stavira means, and those aspiring to become Jin, so Jinakalpa. Jin obviously is what I told you, all knowing of all possible knowledge. Mahavir, during his time, had tried to merge these two back again into one homogeneous group. But around 300 years after his time, that is the time of the Mauryas, the first of them, Chandragupta Maurya, they got split into two once more. Actually, there was a famine which spanned for roughly around 12 years in Magadha, which is where Patliputra or Patna is. There was food scarcity, and these were people who lived on alms, the sages. And so for them, survival was very difficult. So many Jain Munis under the sage Bhadrabhahu left for South India and settled around a place which is quite popular known as Shravana Belgol. The daily routine of Jain monks was very rigid. They had strict, harsh rules. Even today, these rules are not very easy to follow. So during the famine, the rules were made lax so that the Jain sadhus could survive. Uh, Diet, timing of eating, use of clothes, using a staff for protection, all this was then allowed. Even as things returned to normal after the famine, these relaxations continued. The person who was heading the group that remained was Stulabhadra. Under his headship in Patna, all the works and teachings that were known of Mahavir were recompiled. This is known as the first Vachana. Vachana basically refers to the readings. Uh, the original teachings were in the form of 14 Purva, pronounced as Puvva in Prakrut. The language usually used then was Ardhamagadi. Reinterpreting some of Mahavir's comments, an alternative was proposed that the Stavirkalpa, the ones with clothes, could also attain salvation. So, when the Munis from the south returned, they found that the group under Stula Bhadra was deviant from norms that were originally proposed. Usually, a split occurs in the religion when the acharyas, that is, the religious pontiffs, have a major difference in opinion with respect to some old um, concepts or original concepts related to religions that have been put forward. That's what happened here also. This resulted into a split into two sects: the Digambars, who had returned from the south, and the Shwetambars, who had remained in Patliputra, who had adopted the lax, pragmatic rules of dress and diet. As I told you, Stulbhadra had recompiled Puva into 11 Agama. The Bhadrabahu group did not accept this. According to them, some of the original teachings had been lost, and those that had been added were additions by other Kevali or the learned people from Jainism. Also, since Mahavir did his penance without clothes, that seemed to be a major requirement for penance as well as achieving the final stage. So the Digambars did not accept having clothes, while Parshvanath, the earlier Tirthankar, had donned white clothes, and the Shwetambars therefore followed him. At present, the Digambar state is restricted only to the ordained monks and only those who have taken what is known as the Diksha, because it's a very difficult uh, ritual to follow. Much later, a second Sangiti or a religious gathering took place around 800 years after the first one. This was held in Vallabhi in Gujarat around 512 AD. All the material that was available then, the religious texts, were recompiled into 12 Anga, 14 Purva, 5 Prakirna, along with other Sutra literature. The language of all these includes Ardhamagadi, Shauraseni, Jain Maharashtri. All these are typically Apabhransha or Jain Prakrut languages. In South India, some of the texts that were preserved were also in Kannada. According to the Digambars, most of the literature was destroyed around 789 AD, and some of the books and texts had been retained in Nepal and in Shravanbelgo in the south. So, according to them, not everything in the Agamas was perfect. So, these were the original reasons why the two of them split. But the Digambars and the Shwetambars have the same philosophy. That is the Darshana, the Jaina Darshan. I'm going to come to that maybe sometime later. Um, they follow the same Tirthankars, they accept all of them. They accept the same Shalaka Purush, that is the enlightened people or from their community. They follow the same Agama, that is the same text. The Digambars believe that Mahavir was an inborn celibate, an Adi Brahmachari. So for them, Brahmacharya is one of the strictest of the rules. The Shwetambars accept that he was married and had a daughter Priyadarshana before sannyas. around the age of 30, and after that he was a celibate. This we have discussed last time. Uh, According to Digambars, nudity is essential for salvation. Since females are allowed to use some clothes, according to the Digambars, they cannot get salvation. So they have to be reborn as males, and then after suitable penance, only then can they get salvation, according to Digambars. The Shwetambars say that the ladies can also reach the final stage of Kevala Jnana and achieve moksha in the process. The Digambars use only a murchala, that is a fly whisk, and occasionally an umbrella. Most of the times they remain bare feet. Once Diksha is taken, they don't bathe. The Shwetambars, their monks of course, restrict themselves to white clothes and also remain bare feet. There is one more very difficult practice. The Digambar sadhus on Diksha carry out what is known as Kesha Lunchana, that is, pulling out their hair from their roots from the head so that no hair further grows. Also, as far as their food is concerned, they practice uh, a different pattern. They would eat only once a day. They still do. Many of them are said to drink water even once a day. There is no food to be taken in after sunset, and all food is to be taken in your bare hands. This is known as karapatra, and so they have to eat only through their hands, having no other possession, no vessels, no utensils around. Invariably, they are invited to have their lunch at a variety of places by the laymen of the Jain following. There is one more story as to why the Digambars went without dress. Um, there was a son of a minister, Pradhan as they are called, named Shivabhuti. He took Diksha. So the king, while departing, gave him a Ratna Kambal, a blanket studded with diamonds and with gold threadings, as it is a common practice in India. Shivabhuti was attached to the gift given by the king, and his guru realized this attachment. So he chopped the Ratna Kambal into a number of pieces and distributed it among all his other disciples. On returning, Shivabhuti found this, and to prove that he was really detached, he said, I will give up all my clothes also and stay in the Jinakalpa pattern. So he went naked and revived the Jinakalpa. The Shwetambars, of course, restrict themselves to white clothes. But nowadays there is a tendency to use synthetic slippers, because originally slippers which were or footwear that was made of leather could be achieved only after himsa, that is killing of animals, and ahimsa, that is the prime for both the sects. Shwetambars obviously also believe that the females can achieve salvation. And regarding the ladies, there is one more issue that differentiates them. One of the Tirthankars that I listed out last time is Mallinath sometimes. According to the Shwetambars, Malli was a female, while the Digambars say that Mallinath was a male. That's another difference of opinion between the two of them. The Shwetambars don't wear clothes, so naturally, they're monks, obviously. Naturally, their temples have their idols also, which are clothed, while the Digambars have their idols without clothes. Actually, up to around 700 AD, all Tirthankar idols were without clothes. Only later on, this depiction of clothes has started in the later um, versions of the idols. This is another issue. Temples in India are places where offerings are made to God, and they are in terms of essences and food, and that is the prasad that is taken afterwards. This is a practice that is accepted by the Shwetambars too. But the Digambars do not accept the idea of offering food and to be consumed back again as prasad by others. They believe only in Abhishek. Mahamastakabhishek is one of the big things. I'll talk of that next time. Um, Abhishek is pouring water on the head, one of the ways of cleansing the idol that is present. So only Abhishek is allowed by the Digambars, while other offerings are accepted by the Shwetambars. These, if you look at the geography of India, you find that the Shwetambars are spread in Gujarat, Kathiawad, North India to a large extent, and the Digambars are from the south. Though the number in South India of the Jains is comparatively less, they are in various small pockets. Some of the regions are around Shravanbelgol and that area. The central region, which is Malwa and Maharashtra, also has a number of Jains and a number of Jain temples too. Other than these two, there are many other subsects. The Sthanakvasi, the Mandirpanthi, the Rupnami, the Dhundiya, the Terapanthi, the Tarapanthi. Sthanak is the place where the sadhus and the sadhvis stay and preach. So only that is the point of reverence, because there is no importance to statues and idols according to the Digambars. Some of these sects treat Mahaveer as God. Some of them respect only the scriptures, the texts, and nothing else. Some of them attach themselves to a variety of important places associated with the life of the Tirthankars. And so temples are built at these places, which become Jain pilgrimage sites. Around 10th century AD, um, one of the sages, Jain sages, Uddyodan, um, split his disciples and pontiffs um, into a number of subcategories, around 84 of them. These disciples had their own viewpoints regarding a variety of interpretations in Jainism, and such subsects were known as the Gacha. Each one had their own important head, and the Guru or the Acharya in such Gacha is known as the Suri, and the disciples are known as Gani. So you would hear these words also attached to the number of sages that are around in the Jain uh, ascetics. The concept of remaining without clothes, there are a lot of opinions about this. But Jain Muni Praman Sagarji has explained this nudity in a number of ways. He says nudity is less physical and more mental acceptance and a mental commitment after Diksha. It is at it is a process of being at ease with your natural state. And this is known as Yatha Jat Mudra, the way one is born. Muniji, while explaining, says, you wear clothes to avoid embarrassment. We have nothing to hide from anyone or nothing to be embarrassed about. Your clothes are made out of fibers, ours are directions. Yours have measurements, they need a change, they need a proper fitting, they need to be washed, they need to be cleaned, they have wear and tears. Our clothes, the Digambar, the clothes of directions, have none of these problems. You get involved with your clothes, you have choices to wear in marriages and other occasions. We have no attachment to any of this. So, us remaining free of clothes is our mental state, something that we have accepted as a part of our life. It's a difficult proposition. Luckily, all this is restricted only to the highest of the sages, and they remain in this state and travel around India in the same manner. The Digambars and the Shwetambars are the two major parts, major sects of Jainism. They follow the same ideals as far as religion is concerned. What these ideals are, what are the teachings, is something that we will look into next time. If you've liked all this, pass on this information to your other friends who do not know about Jainism. Till we go into the actual details of the religion itself next time. Namaskar.